Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. Here we have Legacy, filmed at Scholars Games in Brockton, Massachusetts, part of our Wednesday night Legacy series, which happens every week at 7:30. It's also broadcast live on Twitch. Like Dylan maybe keeping his 70s, thinking about it. The side of the table, Goblins has a keepable hand with Aether Vial. And Dylan's going to lead out with Mox Diamonds and a basic forest. I actually lost light for a moment in the store. Don't worry about this. This will be momentary. Back. See, in the dark, he discarded Karakas, and Green Sun Zenith for 1 is going to grab Deathrite Shaman, setting up a 4-mana turn 2 as a land drop. Just Aether Vial go from Goblins. Like he has Maze of Ith in hand. Not particularly great versus Goblins. Goblins are going to go very wide most of the time. There's no creature with printed power or toughness greater than 3 in the deck. Definitely push through a lot of damage as a team. Dylan actually passing, so an explosive start there. Mox Diamond really not doing much. Aside from color fixing here, seeing as how he's not actually using much of that mana. And there we go. That's more like it. Liliana. Of course, her Edict effect not going to be great here, so Dylan going to have us both discard. That is one strong thing. There's a bunch of strong things about Goblins, but that is certainly a valid element of Goblins. The ability to go wide around attackers and kind of play right through effects like Liliana. Even though you're an aggro deck, her Edict ability is pretty underwhelming. Goblins turning sideways there, getting Maze of Ith. That Goblin that went to the graveyard is Mogg War Marshall, and he has an enter the battlefield of create a Goblin token and a Dies ability as well. And he has Echo, so he actually lets you generate a nice little board presence, give you a head start for cards like Krenko, Siege Gang Commander. And Liliana ticking up again, Wasteland being discarded, and now Dylan returning 3 lands with life from the loam. Looks like Cabal Pit is going to be an option as well. He's got Wasteland. Goblin's going to be able to play a really solid basic game in terms of making sure to not be disrupted too badly by Wasteland. It does have Cavern of Souls, its own Wastelands, Rishadan Ports, but there are plenty of mountains if you are in a situation where you've got a recurring Wasteland off of life from the loam. And it looks like Matron is going to be able to tutor up either a 3 or 4 drop, and it looks like Krenko is going to be the safest call. Goblin Chieftain coming in here. That is going to give all these goblins +1/+1 and haste. Now put to the test. He could sacrifice essentially his Deathrite Shaman. To protect Liliana. So everything at Liliana. Maze and a chump block Deathrite Shaman managed to keep her alive. That is going to be very disappointing, because this would have been lethal off of Mogg Bomber the next turn. If he does tick up Liliana, going to end up discarding one of those combo pieces. Is the reason I played this deck, is to try and get as many wins with Mogg Bomber as I reasonably could. And Lily is ticking up. Mogg Bombers go to the graveyard there. Vial is going to put in Krenko, and that is going to actually be a very explosive play. Krenko is going to be able to tap to put 5 Goblin tokens into the battlefield, and those are all going to get +1/+1 and haste. So as long as that Chieftain's on board, this is a super dangerous situation. Cycling Baron Moore. May have missed a point of damage there off of the ball pit. Oh, and it looks like this is actually lethal. Minus the Mazavith. So it looks like a couple of goblins sent at Liliana. Dylan not activating Mazavith on the remaining goblins, interestingly enough. That is pretty much just a sign of scooping it up. There we go, Dylan packing it in. Krenko's activation, just way too much value. And of course, that was only going to get way worse the next turn. That 5 goblins added leaves 10 on board, which means the next time he activates, you're getting 10, and then 20, 40, 80. I mean, you can actually take people out from any life total with Krenko. We'll eventually get there. You can actually do millions and billions of damage with that board, as long as they don't have a board sweeper or a way to handle Krenko himself. And he can be tough to deal with right now. He's a 3/3 creature, so he gets outside of a lot of the removal that's played right now. Cards like Kolgan's Command, Tarfire, a lot of the kind of cuter stuff, Marsh Casualties, that have been able to be predictable ways of removing creatures once you kind of know the meta. You know, cards like Lightning Bolt are still popular, but not as automatic as they have been in the past. People are trying to get a little bit more value with cards like Kolgan's Command. They're trying to get a little more certainty with cards like Abrupt Decay. So Krenko's actually a little difficult to deal with right now. Of course, Bolt, Swords to Plowshares, still excellent answers to it. Actually going to go ahead and mark first feature here, keeping track of games won during the shuffling here. Just like to thank Scholars and Kyle, the owner there. Always does a great job supporting the Eternal formats, Vintage, Legacy. Really does a ton for the community, and these weekly events are just a really important thing for the local community to keep sharp for those larger events. Of course, we do have a larger event ourselves coming up on April 28th. That is going to be for some dual lands. I believe Underground Sea is guaranteed, and you can check that out at the Scholars Facebook page. Talking about it over on the Brainstorm MTG Facebook page as well, so be sure to like us over there. And mulling here, seeing a Cavern of Souls, not a great hand, but actually gonna keep and scry. Just going to need a red source, and actually drew one. What a savage. So Warren Instigator will be able to come down and potentially start emptying this hand as long as Dylan doesn't have removal or a creature. That is a lot to ask. Double fetch from Dylan. Got Savannah and Scrubland into Scavenging Ooze, and that is a legit blocker that's only going to get bigger as the game goes on. Going to have Aether Vial and Wastelanding the green source. May be able to stop this Scavenging Ooze from growing too rapidly. Of course, he only grows when he removes creatures, but in this type of matchup, you have to expect there's going to be some creatures, and they are not going to go the distance. Going to be a lot of bodies entering the graveyard. Another Aether Vial. And some really good draws, it would appear. As long as Dylan doesn't have a Pithing Needle type of effect, these Aether Vials are going to start to essentially tap for 3 and 4 mana. Really enable the hand to get emptied out. Dark Confidant, a little bit of counterplay here from Dylan. That could start to bury Goblins in card advantage. Got to be the easiest creature in the deck to deal with. Tarfire, Pyrokinesis. Need a goblin, and there's step 1. We've got a goblin. Step 2, cycle Gempalm Incinerator. Step 3, profit. Card drawn is Tin Street Hooligan. Not a tremendous card here, but it does kind of have a lot of protection for Pithing Needle. It also can act as a Stone Rain when he does have Mox Diamond. Those vials continue to tick up. And now Scavenging Ooze does have the potential to become an actual threat. Gempalm Incinerator and Dark Confidant can be eaten for a point of life and a +1/+1 counter. And that's actually going to be what Dylan does with his mana. End of turn, another Warren Instigator. And ticking up both Aether Vials, 3 and 4. A Cavern of Souls in hand. Basically the potential equivalent of 10 mana plus. Maze and a Swords to Plowshares, though, stops the Warren Instigator from really just emptying the board out. Tin Street Hooligan just cast as a 2/1. Got to expect these vials to be activated turn. Finally, the Mox Diamond coming down. Looks like another Tin Street in hand will be able to get rid of that. Got a new subscriber. Thank you, Menth, for reminding me to silence my phone. Alright, so 3 and 5. That signals only one thing. Siege Gang Commander. Aether Vial, such a powerful card. Really wild when that one was standard. People trying to figure out just exactly how good it was. And Cavern of Souls, going to give green mana to take out that Mox Diamond. Now the board is a bunch of goblins versus some fat creatures. That Knight of the Reliquary looks like a 5/5 or a 6/6 perhaps. Like a 6/6. 4 lands. Warren Instigator getting swords. Interesting attack step here. Both creatures turning sideways. It looks like 2 Tin Streets are going to just trade in on the Scavenging Ooze. Just Knight of the Reliquary is going to connect. But Siege Gang could possibly neutralize this with a land. And there is a land, Rishadan Port. That's going to give the 4 mana. So Siege Gang can trade in now by sacrificing 2 tokens. And then blocking himself. We have a game here. Dylan trying to close it out. So close to lethal with just that Knight of the Reliquary, but there's a bunch of goblins standing in his way. That 3 mana Toxic Deluge for 2. And that is not going to end well. That is actually going to clear the board. 2 of those tokens are actually going to get thrown at the Knight. So he's actually within range of his own Toxic Deluge there. Deluge for 1 perhaps would have been the safer play. Would have cleared the tokens. Would have left the Siege Gang. But most of the threat would have been eliminated. And right off the top, Ringleader into Matron and another Ringleader. This Goblin list does have a couple of interesting tricks up its sleeve surrounding Mogg Bomber. It does allow you to close things out very quickly. That might be the call here. We'll see. Matron. Really, Mogg Bomber, Krenko, or Siege Gang Commander. Those are pretty much the choices here. There's already another Ringleader in hand. And just going to grab the Siege Gang here. The Vial's already at 5. Might as well make use of it. And now with 5 lands in play, a 6th land here actually means that these tokens could clear the way on the Knight of the Reliquary again. Ringleader finding Tuk Tuk and Goblin Sharpshooter, a couple of sideboard cards there. There we go, the tokens being thrown at Knight of the Reliquary, the damage coming in. 7. Really just one more turn. Dylan kind of resigned to his fate here, cycling a couple of lands. Could have saved himself a couple of damage with that Maze of Ith last turn. Dark Confidant coming down. Trying to see about getting this Mogg Bomber activation. Not as exciting. Don't have a Krenko or Siege Gang, but it could still be in range. Two mana. Go ahead to cast Tuk Tuk. No, that could not have been Tuk Tuk. Oh, it was. It was actually casting Tuk Tuk and then sacrificing him to Siege Gang. And now that 3 damage means Mogg Bomber could actually take it out. Cast Violin Mogg Bomber and then cast the Sharpshooter. Overkill, but that actually will get the job done. That's all for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please help grow the channel by subscribing. You'll be notified when we upload new videos like Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic with commentary, or Untapped, our raw tournament gameplay. Thanks for watching.